Hi everybody, I'm Randy McIlvoy alongside Chancellor Johnson and our Texans insider Aaron Wilson for ClickToHouston.com. We are here outside of NRG Stadium. We both just walked out of the DeMeco Ryans news conference as they prepare for the draft, and he talks a little bit about adjusting to the new position. The initial takeaways, Chancellor, we'll start with you. This, first off, very refreshing hearing DeMeco Ryans at a news conference. His answers are really thought through, great insight from what we're going to get. That's exciting, looking ahead to what we'll see this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Hearing from DeMeco Ryans, obviously, kind of that honeymoon stage has kind of worn off now. Now it's attention's fully on the NFL draft. And of course, DeMeco Ryans, just like most GMs and most coaches, he isn't showing his hand, he or the Texans' hand. You know, will they go with number 2 with as far as Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, or if maybe one of the QBs that they like is off the board, could they potentially go defense? Seems like all options are on the table right now.
DeMeco also addressed not only the draft situation leading up and kind of what he's looking for in a quarterback. Anything surprised you, what you heard from DeMeco today, specifically on what he wants out of a quarterback?
Right, nothing surprising. When you think about the quarterback position, ultimately it's a leadership spot. That's a big theme for DeMeco Ryans, that he wants to be for the entire team. And I thought one thing that really jumped out to me was, don't put pressure on a young man. Don't make it harder for him, because it's already a lot of pressure. Just the contract, the attention, the social media, all of what the fans want. And overriding thing, try to build a winner, and ultimately it starts with one little thing. Him building trust with the players that he already has in the building. Once he has that quarterback, and we still think he's going to wind up with one, then, could even be 2 actually, that's one thought. They might draft a couple quarterbacks, is not forcing it and make him earn the starting job. Don't hand anyone anything. And I think that's going to be a big overriding theme for DeMeco Ryans' tenure here.
One of the many comments he made, his news conference went about 30 minutes or so, but I love the fact where he was talking about, somebody asked him a question about just kind of the ladder, so to speak, of dealing with his coordinators, the coordinators dealing with position coaches, connecting with the players, and he said, hey, I'm going to make a point. I got to meet with these guys too, because I, as the head coach, I need to connect with these guys. I just love the approach he's using.
Yeah, as far as the coaching staff goes, obviously it's a lot of new complete coaching staff, and some of them don't have as much experience, right? Like some of their coordinators to some of the positional coaches, and so he was talking about how for him, he remembers the time where he was, first time kind of being, a coach there. Yeah. So using that experience and just really being the teacher as the lead man, and then for him, having that experience as a coordinator in San Francisco, being the guy who's been in the draft room. So this process isn't new for him, going from a defensive coordinator with the 49ers to now being the head coach with the Houston Texans.
I want to talk about, and kind of following up on what you just said, Chancellor, there's a guy who played in the game, played at a very high level, worked his way up in the coaching ranks to get this position with the Texans. That experience all behind him, not every coach has that on his resume. What kind of factor do you think, Aaron, we'll start with you on that it'll have with DeMeco, knowing he's been there and done that before as a player, and the way he can connect with these guys and coach them up?
All right, great question, Randy. I was talking with a couple of players about DeMeco specifically within the past 7 days. Roy Lopez, as he held his annual football camp out in Arizona, and Tavierre Thomas, as he was doing a community event here at Kroger. You think about the way he connects with players, and they said, man, he's been in my shoes. He knows exactly what it's like, how it feels, and where am I coming from. And he said that ability to be empathetic and to put yourself, it's a great exercise almost in anything, journalism or football. What is the other person? Where are they coming from? And he's got the emotional intelligence and the absolute institutional experience. He's been a linebacker for the Texans. He's been a Pro Bowl linebacker. He's been a team captain. So there's nothing these guys are going through that he hasn't already done, or nothing that he's asking them to do that he didn't do himself. And that credibility with players is like gold.
Absolutely.
Aaron, to that point, as you just mentioned, it's the relatability. And it's also important, too, that players can remember it. They saw it. So, you have some former coaches who played, it was kind of back in the day. DeMeco Ryans, this is within the past decade, where players today actually saw him play for the Houston Texans. They saw him play for the Philadelphia Eagles. They know people who still are in the league today who say, hey, man, DeMeco Ryans, he's such a great guy. I played with him
baller.
My rookie season. Not only was he a great player, but he's also a great leader. So I think that type of stuff matters, especially coming from previous coaches like Lovie Smith, who a little bit older, David Culley, a little bit older, but now they can see another guy who was not that really far removed from the NFL playing days. And so I think that goes a really long way with this team.
All right, let's wrap it up with a quarterback question, because that's what everybody cares about right now. What are they going to do with that number 2 pick? Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud. That continues to 1 and 2, whatever order you want to put them in. Carolina's got that first pick. Aaron, let's start with you. What are you hearing right now? Or is it still a mixed bag of what you're hearing and seeing around the country?
My sources around the league tell me this, that Bryce Young has a lot of support within the Carolina Panthers building, but Frank Reich, who is going to have a lot of say in making this decision because he's the coach and he took that job with that understanding that he was going to have a lot of say. He likes C.J. Stroud. And so it's going to be interesting to see that push-pull in that building. So if Bryce Young is off the board, and I believe that is the preference of the Texans, if he's gone, do they turn in the card on C.J. Stroud knowing they need a quarterback and he's a good quarterback, or do you go with a higher-rated player in Will Anderson, the Alabama pass rusher? And what I would say is do not rule out that scenario or trading back. And if they do trade back, who are you trading back to get? So I would not lock in and think, and we just had a fan who was yelling, he was out jogging, he said, Bryce Young, not CJ. He might be disappointed because Bryce Young could go to the Panthers. Not saying it will definitely happen, don't take it to the bank. But there is support in that building, and Bryce has wowed the Panthers.
Yeah, big questions coming and answers from the Texans. Should Bryce go number 1? What's your gut, Chancellor? I mean, if it's just, let's just say Bryce goes to Carolina. From your opinion, what you've seen, is CJ the guy they need to go with, or do they say, wait a minute, we're not sure, let's get the sure thing, and maybe it will Anderson?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Bryce Young goes to the Carolina Panthers, who I believe the Texans prefer QB. The Texans say, hey, we like Will Anderson. Or maybe they trade back there if they're not very comfortable with C.J. Stroud, because obviously the Houston Texans need a quarterback, but you can't just draft a quarterback just to draft a quarterback. Say, hey guys, we got one, right?
Let's try to see if he can figure it out.
Right, you have to, at number 2, it's got to be a franchise guy. And if the Texans don't believe that he is that, I wouldn't even mind them picking the best player available, whether that's Will Anderson or somebody else.
All right, so that is the latest. We're still a little over 2 weeks out from the NFL draft. Begins on April 27th. We had a good conversation today from new Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans, kind of laying out the groundwork for the offseason program as well. And, of course, everybody's counting down to the draft and wanting answers. He gave as much as he could today, but it was good insight from head coach DeMeco Ryans. So that's the latest from NRG Stadium. Much more in the days and weeks ahead as we count down to the NFL draft. For our Texans insider Aaron Wilson, Chancellor Johnson, KPRC 2 Sports, so long for now.